They would have us be divided. What purpose would that serve? Have you ever stopped before you turn and start judging your neighbor, before you've turned your back on your family members, before you turned to hatred of your fellow man because they didn't believe or they didn't agree with what you think or say? Is it what you think? How much of those feelings came from within you and your spirit? Are you capable of independent thought to discern right from wrong? Many of you youth are living in a world that is complete fabrication. They've dummied you down in schools. They've stopped teaching you anything that was useful. I understand that many schools took away shop classes that would teach people how to build, cooking classes that would teach them to be self-sufficient, sewing classes so they'd know how to make clothes. What possible motive would an educational system have for denying basic teachings like these? Why would they take away a shop class that teaches somebody how to build a box or a house or metal shop to be able to manufacture things or make things that they need? Teach them trades. Why would they stop teaching these things? When you look around this world and you see the injustices and you see the things that are not right, who in government do you think is responsible for these things? You think your border's safe? Oh no, there are no borders. You aren't safe. President of the United States is supposed to protect the borders and ensure the safety and security of the citizens of the United States of America. President Biden opened the borders and bussed in foreign nationals. We have no idea who they are. Why would they do that? Ask yourself, why would a political party seek to pass a law forbidding people from requesting identification at the elections for the citizens of the United States of America? Why wouldn't they have to show an ID to prove who they were for something as important as an election for the governance of this nation? People fought and died for the right to vote, for democracy. People risked their lives and have died trying to come to this nation so that their voices can be heard in the way their lives are ran. Why wouldn't they have to prove who they are before they vote? Do you understand? A government for the people, by the people, where their voices are heard. If one political party refuses to give up power, the only way that they can obtain and maintain power is through the ballots. So bussing in millions of foreign nationals and not requiring any kind of identification or proof of citizenship to vote would ensure certain political parties stay in power, wouldn't it? That goes against every law in the Constitution of the United States. Women had to fight to get the right to vote, and now you don't even need an identification? Ask yourself, why would a government or a political party encourage defunding civilian police departments? Why would they encourage there being less law enforcement? Now, granted, there are many police officers who needed to be maybe better trained in dealing with certain situations, or maybe screened better to make sure that they don't have any underlying aggression or hatred. But why would they seek to defund police forces around the country? What would be an ulterior motive? You see, whether you realize it or not, the police are there to protect. They are the last line of defense for civilians against enemies, foreign and domestic, including tyrannical governments, communist coups, corrupt officials. They are there to protect you. So with the police forces cut in half around the country, that's fewer police officers to defend and protect you from this coup. Listen to me, children. Let me make one thing perfectly clear, and I need you to let this sink in. You've heard me say to use discernment. Step back from a situation, assess it, and think. Who is responsible for the way this world is? New people coming in, or those who have been there the whole time, who made the laws, who allowed it to happen? That's right. The ones that have been there had the opportunity, the motive, to allow things to become the way they are. They grew fat and they grew wealthy off the way things are. They manipulate the stock markets, and then they make laws to make certain companies end up closing down while the one that they've invested in thrives. We're talking high level of corruption. Now, if you've been in a job, a cushy job that gets you respect and wealth, do you want to give up that power? Do you want to go back to being just some normal average citizen and get a job doing something else? You don't. So the biggest threat to your cushy, very corrupt life would be a newcomer who says something like, I'm going to drain the swamp. Because it was so corrupted, so thick and vile with swamp monsters, disease, and bugs. Yes, those are the senators and the old school congressmen on both parties. There is no politics coming from me, children. Just truth. Stand back and think. An attempt to take over our government, any act that goes against the Constitution of the United States on which the laws of this nation were founded. Political officials, governing officials that are elected, they are elected to adhere based upon those laws and govern the people, follow through with their job, which is to make righteous laws, righteous taxes, reasonable things. They're not allowed to profit off of the stock exchange. They're not allowed to perform any kind of fraud with regards to elections. They're not allowed to do anything or make any laws that make your life any more difficult than it is every day. Every law that they make is for the whole of the people, not for the government. They are not in office to make themselves more wealthy or to have more power. That is what the founding fathers of this nation fought against, to ensure a government for the people, by the people. Do you understand? For we the people. But we the people have been kicked out of the government for a very long time. The discord and everything that's going on in this nation is because of these officials that would have you turn your back on your neighbor, turn your back on family members, judge one another. They sow discord in every way that they can. And they create all these little petty things to distract from what they're really doing, which is taking over this nation. When the President of the United States seizes something as essential as oil, and I'm not saying that the pipeline that they shut down didn't need to be, it needed to be rerouted. They needed to figure out something better. But the reality of it is this, people. Gasoline is still going to be used. And if we are not producing it here under safe guidelines, the safest in the world, then it is being produced in another country. And newsflash, we reside on the same planet. Does it matter where and how? I would say yes. Because if it's not here, it's being shipped here. And then that costs more, and it's more pollution to the environment, shipping the fuels across the ocean. It makes absolutely no sense. You're using 10 times as much. The nation is dependent upon vehicles. And until there is a solution, we have to be self-sufficient. You do not, if you are looking into the best interests of the people, turn to a government regime that is a sworn enemy of democracy and freedom. You don't go to a communist country and get gas from them unless there's something very nefarious at hand. Why would we be dependent on sworn enemies of this nation for fuel? Then they just cut it off and then there's no fuel. Do you understand, children? They can find another place and a better way. They shouldn't have stopped it and then turned to communist nations. They need an entity like Fox News. They need to have opposition. They need to have the people divided. The people go home and they watch the news at night. They expect the media to be telling the truth because the whole purpose of the news is to keep people informed about the truth and to keep an eye on governing officials, make sure they're doing their jobs because we hire them to look out for our best interests. And we trust the media to report on our best interests. But see, the corporate, these sick twisteds in the media, the moguls, they realize the power that they have. Power they have to not just influence the way people act in one area, but the entire world. They can manipulate the entire world with false doctrine. So they control, ultimately, everything that people think, is controlled through the media. And the other control is like in universities and colleges and schools. They manipulate everything. If everybody's believing the same things, then they're going to sit back, unite, and blame the government, rightly so, for their hardships. But when you have the people divided, they don't unite. They blame opposite sides. Problem is that they have these people so incensed with the repetition and the bullshit spewed on the nightly news or through the media. They have them so fueled on it that they can't hear. They're automatically, completely devoid the ability to discern, logically discern.